Welcome to Forum 360, a global outlook with a local view. I'm your host, Pat Simons. Helen Keller is quoted as saying, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." Our guests today, Dr. William Keck and Mr. David Kettlewell, are going to tell us about the power of collaboration in getting things done, especially in times of austerity. Their recently published book, Working Together on Collaboration, is a compendium of their knowledge and experience on this subject. Welcome to the show, Dr. Keck and Mr. Kettlewell. There is a third co-author to this book that we want to give a shout out to, Mrs. Ardith Keck, who is not able to be with us today. We have a lot of material to cover, so we'll start right in. Dr. Keck, I thought perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your background and how it relates to the subject of collaboration.
Sure. My background is principally preventive medicine and public health, so I've directed health departments in Kentucky for a while, and I was Akron's health director for 27 years, and during my time in Akron, I was also at the College of Medicine, where I chaired a department that's now called the Department of Family and Community Medicine. So in both those circumstances, we've had more to do than we had resources available. And about the only way you can do that these days is to link up with others who share at least part of your agenda. So really much of my professional life has been focused on finding ways to convince others that we could get some things done that together that we probably wouldn't be able to do alone.
Being very inventive.
Well, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Mr. Kettlewell, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and why you wanted to help write this book?
Sure. I did want to mention that Dr. Keck recently won the Presidential Citation from APHA for a lifetime of service in
Congratulations.
the field
Well, thank you.
of public health, and I was very pleased for him for that. As far as my background, I was a news journalist and then a television producer and host. 230 shows on television, 440 on radio, and then I've written 13 books.
Oh, wow. And did you, what compelled you to be involved with this book?
Well, I got to know Bill because he was an advisor for some of the medical shows that I was doing.
Oh, okay.
And I recognized through conversations and the things we did that his understanding of how to work with people successfully in collaboration was way beyond my skill level, and that I had a lot to learn, and so did everybody else from him.
Oh, thank you. The first section of this book is an introduction that's entitled On Collaboration, and it has a textbook quality to it, a kind of how-to manual. You include a definition in that section taken from the Wilder Research Center, and I wondered if you could say why that definition speaks to you.
Well, I think it spoke to me principally because it's short and direct and contains the elements that we need, and I haven't memorized it, so I can't just shout it out for you, but you might. I thought maybe you would.
Mutually beneficial and well-defined relationship entered into by two or more organizations to achieve common goals. The relationship includes commitment to mutual relationships and goals, a jointly developed structure, shared responsibility, mutual authority, and accountability for success, sharing of resources and materials.
Yes.
So it sounds like the whole checklist is in that definition.
That's right. It sort of encompasses it really quite well. It was missing an element, I think, that I added in the book, something that I learned was really quite important, and that is if you're going to be working with others towards a shared vision or shared goal, then among the other things that you need to share are the risks and the rewards associated with it. So it means tamping down your own ego a bit, sharing with others, and making sure that if there are problems, and often there are, that those problems are equally shared, or at least somewhat shared by everybody who's involved. Because really, when we put these collaborations together, we're forming what some folks call learning communities. You know, we're getting people together who think that the the combination of the skills and abilities that exist in a group are such that they can learn from each other, they can face problems and issues together, learn how to overcome them together, become an active working unit. And so it's important that everybody gets credit for the positive things and that no one is saddled simply with the negatives, if indeed there are some problems that develop along the way.
It's an interesting aspect of that. It sounds like it really adds to the process. Now, you describe collaboration as a type of teamwork that is usually not complex, but does require a unique grouping of skills and attributes. But then you also say that you don't have to have experience in collaborative efforts to be a successful collaboration partner. The two sound like they're not quite balanced. Could you explain that, please?
Yes, I think so. Well, let me put it this way. This isn't necessarily rocket science, as they say, you know. It's sort of getting along with other people. It's sharing with them. It's engaging them. It's bringing them along with you. I think collaboration is something that can be learned so that with experience you can be better at it. And I'm not sure that it would be easy to necessarily lead a collaboration if you hadn't had any experience, although certainly people have done it. I certainly did it when we started. But if you have this sense of what it takes to bring people together, to work together, to tamp your own ego down and bring theirs forward, you can probably move ahead. But at the same time, you're in a learning situation. And my assumption is that most people will learn how to do this. And will probably get better with it over time if they persist. But not everyone will do and get better with it over time. There are some personality characteristics, I think, that really suggest that you shouldn't be a leader, and maybe you could be a participant, and maybe not. It really depends on how much you're willing to subvert your own needs and ego to those of others.
Well, that's an important aspect of it, it sounds. You describe collaboration as an art and a science, and those seem to be kind of diametrically at either end of the continuum. Not so?
Well, I don't. We talk about medicine as science and art, public health as science and art. The art of it, I guess, is the personal characteristics that come into making this work. There is some science. You know, people have actually tried to look at this area and try to figure out what it is that makes collaborations work. What are the characteristics of good collaborations, for example? And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the science. And the Wilder Research Center has actually done that kind of review, and you know, they'll create a textbook list, which is in the book, of what their research shows. And if you go to their original source, then you'll see that they talk also about the strength of their findings. Are they weak findings, very strong findings, etc.? So you can judge that pretty much for yourself. So yes, you can read a list, as you suggested when we started, that is a description of what a good collaboration requires. But then the question is, do you have the personal characteristics, the personal stature to carry it out? And that's where the art comes. That's where the art comes.
In shared vision, shared goals. Everybody's got a skin in the game, so to speak.
That's right. That's right. Well, you have to start with that. I mean, if you don't have a shared vision or a shared goal, you're not going to go anywhere. But yes, you need all of that to begin with. And if people are enthusiastic about this, then they tend to find ways to make it work. If you've got people included who are not enthusiastic about this, they may very well find ways to make sure it doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
So it can get complicated. So hopefully not, but sometimes it can.
Being a leader of a collaboration is not an easy thing, it sounds like.
Well, it depends. You know, sometimes it's fairly simple. Sometimes it really is not. It really depends on how much, what the stakes are, how many people there are, how difficult or different their opinions are from each other, how much you have to do to work with them to get them to come together and actually focus on finding ways to move this project ahead, etc. So yeah, it can be quite complicated.
Well, worth it at the end if it can be successful.
Yes. Well, if you can't do it without the collaboration, then hopefully you can.
It's your alternative.
Yes, that's right.
In the book, Dr. Yuval Harari of Harvard is quoted as saying, "Our ability to create a shared vision and to work together on that vision of fulfillment over time has brought mankind to where we are as a species today."
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you believe that the power of collaboration is that profound?
Yes. Yes, I do. That's why we put it in the book. Yes, we think it is. And that, just think of your own life. I mean, what do you do alone? Most of the things that we benefit from, most of the things we have, exist because we work together in one form or another, which allows us to bring groups of people together to focus on particular issues and moving things ahead. Yeah, I think it's key.
So great influence on cultural and societal and
Sure.
scientific advancement. And
Yes, all of that.
things.
And actually, David and I really, I think, believe that collaboration is just an important skill to have in everyone's life. It's what a marriage is. It's what a relationship is. It's what a job is in many ways. So the collaboration skills are really life skills.
That's an interesting way to put it. I had not thought about that. This is Forum 360. I'm your host, Pat Simons. Today's guests are Dr. William Keck and Mr. David Kettlewell, co-authors of their new book, Working Together on Collaboration. I have another quote.
Yes.
This is a very quotable book. "We live in a world of declining resources overall. Currently, there is less money to accomplish goals than in years past." To me, that statement had a sense of urgency about it. How important is collaboration today?
Well, of course, I come from a background in public health. All right. So since 2008, over 50,000 public health jobs have been lost in the United States.
Oh, wow.
At the same time, the public health agenda is expanding. So we move from just, immunizations and infectious disease control and environmental health issues and restaurant inspections and so on. Now we're responsible for things like gun violence, opioid addiction, the so-called social determinants of health, figuring out how to bring medicine and public health closer together in an era, at least it was an era of health reform. We're not quite sure what's happening now, but we do know that the U.S. so-called health system, really health industry, has to change if we're going to be as healthy as we could be. So that's really what helped convince me that the effort was worthwhile here, because of my own public health experience, knowing that indeed agendas are expanding, expectations are expanding, but resources are quite limited. We can't do that alone. We just can't approach the public health agenda alone, and I suspect that's the case in many other venues as well.
There's a popular phrase right now, doing more with less.
Yeah, well,
And
it's been around a long time.
Yeah, and it's something though I keep applying to these kinds of efforts.
Yeah.
Now the next section of the book contains many interviews by eminent public health practitioners and academics, and they share their views and experiences with collaboration. Now Dr. Keck, you are one of those interviews, and in it you speak of the successes and the failures in collaboration. And I wondered if you could talk about that, but I thought even more compelling was that you found redeeming qualities even in failure.
Yes, in many ways, it was hard for me to come up with an example that was a complete failure. David kept asking me about this. And indeed, I had collaborations that did not end up where we expected they would. But we gain something each time. Even if it falls apart without having any really noticeable positive outcomes, sometimes there's some good things that happen. I mean, you actually got together with a bunch of people and you talked about them, you know them better. Sometimes you actually may find that you've just laid the groundwork for future collaboration. You know, you want to handle all of that carefully and not burn bridges behind you. I say in the book that you want to be a systems thinker, right? You want to think about more than just what's happening in the moment, but you want to be able to think within the context of the community in which you're working and where you want to be in the future and what all the pieces and parts are that move you in that direction. So even if your original goal was not met, maybe there are sub-goals. Maybe you can maybe you can segue into something different. And we've managed to do that a few times in a few of the examples in the book. So yes, I try not, I mean, failures are discouraging, but you try not to be terribly discouraged by them, particularly in collaborations, because you're really building bridges, and if you're going to stay in that community and keep working, then sometimes you can come back and cross that bridge in a slightly different direction.
As a leader, it seems like it's kind of a responsibility to keep the group up as much as possible.
Absolutely.
and cite whatever. Mr. Kettlewell, you actually did all the interviews. You recorded all of them and you performed them with the interviewee. What types of things did you learn through that process? Did you change your mind about collaboration?
Well, the remarkable part of it was that everybody spoke to different elements. So I was learning something different from each person, and I realized that one person was talking about making sure that that there was a power pie, and that people who had a vested interest in the success of the collaboration had to be included in the collaboration. If you didn't bring them in, they could cause trouble for you down the pike. So that was one person's perspective, and somebody else was talking about the need to go to get coffee and go to lunch with people and be real close to people. And so, I mean, these are, what I would say very pragmatic, Machiavellian, and then on the other side, very, very humanistic. So I think I saw a tremendous scope in style. And yet all of them were under the umbrella of collaboration, and I realized that people's personalities kind of bring out a little different style of collaboration, and they're all valid.
Thank you. Now, the book is a big focus on public health. Is there relevance for the general public with this material?
Well, we've hinted at that. We think so. Of course, to do the book, we really were basing it mostly on my experiences and connections, and so we were focused on public health, but it became increasingly obvious to us that these are issues that have a much broader impact than just in public health, of course. Business, personal lives, etc. We think the elements of a good collaboration are applicable in almost any setting.
Okay.
And I think the Wilder research points that out as well. It's not just public health. That happens to be what we know the best, but I think very clearly it has application on people's personal lives, their business lives, and their volunteer lives.
Exactly. And it seems to me, as you were describing the interviews, that by going and reading those interviews shows all the different ways it can be used and how it has been used. People talk about what their successes and quote unquote failures or less than advantageous things happen. But I think that there's certainly a nice balance there in that regard. So this book could be used in academic settings, it's used for nonprofit organizations who want to learn. Like you said, just about anybody who wants to do collaboration. Now there is a third co-author by the name of Ardith Keck.
Yes.
And her name is the same as yours.
Yes.
I wonder if you might talk about her contribution to the book.
Yes. Well, Ardith and I have been together really since we were 15 years old.
Oh my.
Yes. We met in high school, dated through college, married before I went to medical school. And Ardith, of course, has been part of my life for most of it. She's also, excuse me, she has also been involved in many collaborative efforts herself in her own work and in her volunteer life. She calls herself a professional volunteer. And she was, I think, key in helping me through this, in contributing her own experiences to the book and in influencing us in terms of how we should proceed and how we should make this a reasonable document that hopefully many people would find of value. And she played a role for me that we mentioned in the book of what I call the trusted confidant. You know, if you're going to be a leader in a collaborative effort, especially one that gets sticky, it really helped me always to have someone or someones that you could trust implicitly, completely, to lay out the issues and the concerns and the dilemmas you're facing and get their advice. Knowing that they're not going to talk to anyone else, knowing that they're providing advice, but that I didn't have to take it. And if I didn't take it, it would be okay. But it brought a balance. It allowed me to sort of look at my own thinking that way from an independent, or at least partially independent source. Someone who often had no involvement or no knowledge of the technical issues involved. We were talking about the interpersonal relationships. You know, I've had deputy directors in my positions or administrative assistants who also could play that role for me, but I think that's really was important for my own mental health, and it helped me resolve a number of sticky issues throughout my life. So she has played that role, so she knows me very well, and I think was very helpful. And you agree? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that what you're describing is an attribute for any leader who is in a collaboration. That is the point you're making. And it seems a trusted confidant is really important, even if you have to let off steam and can put it in a safe place. Now, you have a remarkable website. It's workingtogetheroncollaboration.com. It is chock full of information. Can you tell us a little bit about what's on the website?
Yeah.
Well, the three principal portions of collaboration are to determine what is a good activity that you need to collaborate on, when should you use them, when should you not, then how to organize it, and then how to get out. Those are the three things. So we knew from working on the book, and of course I want to mention Ardith's contribution in a different way. Every idea in the book, every single idea she talked with us about, and Bill gave his input. This book was truly a close collaboration for about 1.5 years. So there isn't any idea there that we didn't talk about, laugh about, question, or throw out. But getting back to the website, what we wanted to take advantage of the power of the web to go all across the world with a message about how to collaborate. So the website, workingtogetheroncollaboration.com, has portions of the book where you can read it. It has over 50 videos right now, and we're shooting more, so it'll end up more than that, where people talk about their own personal experiences and what was difficult and what's easy and what they need to keep in mind. So our goal was that somebody who never would have the opportunity to meet Bill or never would have the opportunity to meet Ardith could go to this site and get enough information to help them to use collaboration in baseball and the arts and their fun activities and what they're doing at work and who they're dating. That was the goal.
And you also have a link for Facebook. You have a link on how to buy the book from Amazon. You have contact information on there. It is really loaded. I really appreciate both of you being here today. I want to thank co-authors Dr. William Keck and Mr. David Kettlewell for sharing their new book, Working Together on Collaboration. If you want to work more effectively with others, then this book's common sense approach can help you master skills of collaboration. Acquiring the ability to see another's views and perspectives as equally valid to our own is central to successful collaboration. This is Pat Simons for Forum 360, a global outlook with a local view. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Forum 360 is brought to you with support from Electric Impulse Communications, Kim and Harvey Nelson, Rubber City Radio Group, Acronist.com, Hudson Cable, Medical Mutual of Ohio, Forum 360 supporters, and the Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron.